Hi, everybody. I'm Heather with Children's Book World, and this is another episode of Books and Baking with Jen Calonita. I'm going to bring her up here in just a second. She has a special guest with her, Mari Mancusi, and they are going to bake for you Dragon Pixie Dust Rice Krispie treats to celebrate a number of their new books, including two great Disney titles, Jen's Tinkerbell and Mari's Sally's Lament, as well as Mari's new dragon book, which we will hear a lot about. So get ready to bake, and please welcome Jen and Mari.
Hey.
Hi. Thank you for joining me tonight. I'm so excited about this.
I know, it's going to be super fun.
And thank you to Children's Book World.
Yes. This is my first time doing this, and I love it. I love the concept of books and baking.
Well, books and baking. I mean, what could be more fun than taking your new book, Dawn of the Dragons, and making these really cute dragon Rice Krispie treats?
Those are
and
so
there's a
cute.
little town. Are these not the cutest? And they are so easy for everybody watching. So we're going to show them how to do it. But Mary is here tonight for her new book, which just came out last week, called Dawn of the Dragons. It is the prequel to New Dragon City. And Mary and I, because we're friends and this is how we do things, I also had a book come out last week. I have Tinkerbell, which is Tinkerbell's origin story. So we've got an origin story and we've got a prequel. Mary, for everybody tuning in, do you want to tell some of the kids watching what a prequel is and how this came about?
Sure. I originally wrote a book called New Dragon City, and it takes place not in a fantasy kingdom like a lot of dragon books, but in a dragon apocalypse. Like dragons have come to our world and kind of taken over, and mankind is suddenly an endangered species. And I like to compare it to like How to Train Your Dragon, but in the dragon apocalypse, because we have our boy character Noah, who befriends a young dragon he finds caught in a trap and starts to question what he knew about or thinks he knows about dragons. And so when I wrote this book and started going to schools, talking about the book to kids, everyone asked, well, where did the dragons come from? How did the dragon apocalypse start? Like, what happened to make dragons and humans, go to war together? And so I thought that was a really interesting question, and I could completely answer that question. So it was kind of a student-driven idea to do this prequel, student-inspired. And so I went back and I wrote the beginning of the story. I called it Dawn of the Dragons, like the new age is dawning. And the dragons, where have they been all this time, and why are they back, and what happens to start this crazy situation. The good thing about these books is they can be read in either order. I know some people like to read the books in the order they were published, and some people would rather read in what we call chronological order, when the events happen in order. So if you like that, if you want to know the story from the beginning right away, Dawn of the Dragons, you can start with this one and then move on to New Dragon City.
I love that. And this is funny because you are a dragon person, as I know, as your friend. I feel like, you had Dragon Ops before this. So how many times have you written about dragons?
Oh, I don't even know anymore. I did another series called Scorched, and sometimes I just slip in dragons in books that aren't about dragons just because I just always love dragons. There's just something about dragons, right? They're these majestic, beautiful creatures, and yet they could be deadly, or maybe they could bond with humans, and it's like the two sides, and what kind of dragons are we going to talk about this time? So yeah, I'm a huge fan of dragons, so I love to write about them.
I'm trying to remember when I read your Disney Twisted Tale, Sally's Lament. You didn't sneak a dragon in there, did you?
No, I didn't get a dragon in Sally's Lament because there are no dragons known in the Nightmare Before Christmas world. But I did get to write a lot about Zero, Sally's dog, Jack's dog, sorry. But he goes along on the adventure with Sally. And, dragons are a little dog-like sometimes in my book. So we'll just say Zero is our stand-in dog dragon. How about that?
I like it. And it's perfect for this time of year. Fall is here, maybe not in Texas where you are. It's starting to be here in New York. We've had, very cool mornings in the 50s. And so Sally's Lament, I feel like it just ushers in fall. I think of Halloween, and this is like the perfect time to pick up that book and your book and start reading more and making these Rice Krispie treats. So I was thinking, as you talk about dragons, I'm going to show you guys a little bit on how to do this. These are so simple. So I first just need to make Rice Krispie treats. So what I do is I always take a Pyrex dish. I will grease it. I'll spray it down with any kind of like cooking spray. And then I just make the Rice Krispie treats. Now, I actually, before we came on, I actually melted down 3 tablespoons of butter. And I'm just going to put it over here in front of me. And I'm going to add a bag of marshmallows. We all know, we've all made Rice Krispie treats. It's as simple as that. Probably the simplest dessert you could make. For our purposes, you would just make a batch of Rice Krispie treats. You would let them cool, and then you would cut into them because that is the basis for our dragon. Now, Mary, how long did it take you to write Dawn of the Dragons? I'm just going to melt these marshmallows for a minute.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm shocked that you aren't just eating some of those marshmallows right out of the package, because that's what I would do if I was in your kitchen right now. I'd be like, that's how I do my baking. Dawn of the Dragons.
I'm making marshmallow casserole.
Yeah. I wrote Dawn of the Dragons pretty quickly because the New Dragon City got on 2 huge state reading lists last year, the Texas state reading list called the Blue Bonnet list and the Florida state reading list called the Sunshine State list. And so I knew kids all over, those 2 states were reading the book as part of their school curriculums. And so I was very excited to keep going on the series and make sure we had something come out the following year for them, because if you've ever met a kid who loves a book, they become very demanding on when the next book is out. So for their sake, I worked overtime on this book and got it out in time for them to be able to come back to school this year. And the book is now available. But yeah, it was a lot. You remember me last fall, Jen, like freaking out. Like I have all this to write. Yeah. Jen always has a lot of deadlines too, though. And like, I think you might have been working on Tinkerbell at the same time, right?
Yes, yeah. I think
and probably 5 other books as well.
For those who don't know, Mary and I actually wrote a book together. We got to do a Disney Frozen book set after the events of Frozen 2, right? In between the events of Frozen 2? Yeah. Okay. It's been so long, but it's called Polar Nights Cast into Darkness. It's also perfect for this time of year because it's a little bit spooky, but not scary. And would you say Dawn of the Dragons is the same way? Because I know sometimes people hear like dragon apocalypse, you might think like end times, really scary, but I love these books and I am usually scared of my own shadow. But what would you say is the big difference here? These are more like an adventure. They're fun.
Yeah. And I think that, what really interests me about an end of the world situation is not the violence and the terrible things that happen, but how people, and in this case, dragons, can come together and we see, everyone's true nature, who is kind, who is empathetic, who's going to help one another when they're in need. And so these kinds of stories really interest me for that way. It's like, when mankind, or dragonkind for that matter, is pushed to the edge, who will stand up for one another? Who will take the high road? Who will figure out a way to save their world through kindness and generosity and all that? So though there is a lot of dragon action and adventure, I think the core of the story is, about humanity and empathy and that kind of thing.
And in Dawn of the Dragons, we kind of get a baby dragon, right?
Yeah, Cinder.
A baby dragon's cute. I mean, still way bigger than my chihuahua, but a baby dragon is very cute.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I had a lot of 3rd graders read the book with their parents, New Dragon City, last year, because it was on the Blue Bonnet list, and that's from 3rd to 6th. So they might not have been ready to read the thickness of that book, but like they wanted to hear the story and their parents read it to them. And what was really interesting is that it became a really great family read where the parents were like, this is actually interesting to me as well, as I'm reading it to my kid at night at bedtime. And I love that because I originally wrote the story for my own daughter, who was in 4th grade at the time. And it was during the pandemic. So we were all stuck at home and she was going to virtual school and she was so bored out of her mind. And so I said, well, I'm writing the story if you want to hear a chapter. And so I went ahead and, read her the first chapter of New Dragon City, or what would become of New Dragon City. And the next day she shows up like at my office, like, where's the next chapter? And so I also wrote that book really quickly because every day she would come down demanding a new chapter. And so we kind of wrote the book together, and she would give me feedback and draw me dragon pictures. And it was such a special time. And even though now she's a big high school girl, she still says like that was her favorite memory of the pandemic, like sitting down and reading a story with mom. So when people now, tell me that they're reading Dawn of the Dragons with their kid, I just love that because it brings back a special memory for me as well.
I love that. I'm going to interrupt you for a second and show everybody we have fully melted a whole bag of marshmallows into 3 tablespoons of butter. And then, as everybody knows, you can follow directions on the back of a Rice Krispie box, but you're going to take 6 cups of Rice Krispies and you're going to dump them into the mixture away from heat. For anybody who's going to make Rice Krispie treats, kids, just please always remember you should be doing this with a parent. You should never touch the stove alone. I'm just going to mix these all up until it's well coated, and then I'm going to pop it in the baking dish. Mary, I love what you said, though, about how it could be a longer book, but kids could really read along with their families, because I love doing that with my kids, too. And I think it's a great way when a book seems a little long and the kids are like, oh, my gosh, I don't know if I can do this on my own. It's just such a treat to get to do that as a family and both be reading the same book together and get to discuss it. It's a great talking point.
Absolutely. And, there's an audiobook version. So sometimes you could listen to it in the car with your family. Maybe you read a chapter and then you go on a trip and you keep going. So I love the multiple formats as well. And it just becomes a special time to share. And then the kid feels really accomplished because they're like, we finished this amazingly big book, and so they feel like they did something special. And so I love that too.
Love that. Okay. We are well coated. So now I'm going to take my Pyrex dish and I am going to dump this all into the dish, and then I'm going to have to smooth it out. I will say, Mary, I don't know how you do it, but I cheat and I usually spray my spatula with a little cooking spray. Smart. So that it's easier to flatten it into the pan.
Yeah.
You could also use wax paper to press it down.
Or your hands.
But you're just going
to get sticky.
Yeah. Yeah. Or you
just
want
wash
to eat
them
first. So I have, perfect for this time of year, I've got my goofy little spatula. I'm just going to spray it down and I'm going to press it into the pan. And that's it. You would just let this sit and cool off. It doesn't need to go in the fridge. It doesn't need anything. You're just going to press it into your Pyrex dish. And then when this cools down, you would eventually just cut it into tiny squares. I would say it's about 2 inches long, or like 1 3/4 inches. And I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. Let me just finish flattening this down so you can see this all flat. And this is the best part. I mean, I love those baking shows where they all have sheets and sheets of this to make those really fancy cakes. Okay. So that's it. We have it ready to go. But tonight we're cheating because here in New York, it is the second week of school and it is busy. So you can also do this. Just take a Rice Krispie treat, and when they come out of the package, they're going to be together like this. Cut them in half. You just want half the size. That's all we need. You're going to take one of these. Then you're going to take, it doesn't matter, any brand fruit roll-up. You can get them from anywhere. If you do fruit by the foot, if you've ever seen those, the thin fruit roll-ups, you're not going to even have to cut it. I have a regular fruit roll-up, so mine are in sheets. So what I do is I take a kitchen shear, and again, make sure you're with a parent if you're allowed to use scissors, and I cut them into strips so that I can use the strips to wrap the Rice Krispie treat. And Mary, your dragons, tell me, some you said remind you of a dog or a pet. Are they all different, all the dragons?
Well, I wanted to make it sort of realistic, that if dragons really came back, if they had been a species on Earth, I didn't want them to be too fantastical. I wanted them to be if a dinosaur came back, but with fire. And so most of my dragons are very similar looking. They all have silver scales. They all breathe fire. And that if they were in the same species that came up together. So, there's amazing other series about dragons, like the Wings of Fire series that's super popular with kids, where they have all kinds of dragons, like sea dragons and fire dragons and, you know, earth dragons and all of that. And that's really fun. But for this one, I really wanted to concentrate on having one specific dragon. So it felt a little more like this could be something that could happen.
Mm-hmm. Now, I have to ask you, as I pick up my Rice Krispie treat, are there going to be more dragon stories?
Yes. So that is very exciting. I'm actually working on a third book in the series. It's not officially announced yet, so you hear it here. But yes, there will be a third book, and that will come out next fall. And so the series will continue with a sequel this time. And so we'll take the characters from Dawn of the Dragons and the characters of New Dragon City. So be sure you have a year to get through both of them. And then we're going to pull them together and, you know, have this third book in the series. And that will continue the adventure. So I'm really excited to be working on that right now.
I love that. So you see what I'm doing here? I had cut it into strips and I am just kind of wrapping it. The great thing about the Rice Krispie treat is it's sticky, so you really don't need any adhesive. What you could do if it wasn't sticking properly, you could use a little frosting. But I found I did, you know, practice one earlier today and sent you a picture of it. And oh, there I am. Okay. One fruit roll up is all you really need to cover an entire little dragon.
This so reminds me of,
I've covered the whole cube.
This reminds me of when I made Peeps sushi. Very similar style, except we use Peeps.
Oh my gosh, yes. So now here's the fun part. You can decorate your dragon any way you want. Now for, you know, our little pieces right here, I was looking for red candy and I went to the dollar spot and I got hot tamales because they were perfectly red. And so I'm sticking two right back here, the dragon's ears, like so. And then the candy eyeballs, they sell everywhere, even at the dollar spot. I keep them up high, press them in, they're gonna stick. Everything's gonna stick. Like that. And then now what I really wanted for the nose was mini M&Ms. And I don't know if it's because it's Halloween, but I couldn't find them. So I found this. It's Bits and Pieces bubble gum because it was the perfect size as well. So I took two little red pieces for the dragon's nose.
His little snout. That's so cute.
Little snout.
Aww.
Now, it's so cute. If you had a multi-pack of fruit roll-ups with different colors, you could cut out little squares and have like little wings. It's really, really cute. But what I would do with my last strip of fruit roll-up is make like the dragon's tail. So I'm going to actually make it even longer. And that will just hang off the back. And it's as simple as that. So like this you could just make and have ready after school or for your dragon themed party. If they're going to have a dragon book club for Dawn of the Dragons, you're just going to stick it on the bottom. And waves out like that. And that's it. So now we have two little dragons. Two little dragons. And that's all. Are you, Mary, are you working on anything else?
I mean, I have other Disney books that I'm working on, but as you know, we can't say what they are until it's till they let us announce them. So they're top secret for now, like yours. But I am hard at work. I will say what I'm also doing, because as a writer, I'm also a reader, is I just finished your Tinkerbell book. And I loved it. It made me cry a little, I got to admit. But it's such a beautiful story. And for those of you who don't know, it's a prequel kind of to Peter Pan. It's a story about a Tinkerbell origin story, or not even just her origin story, but like the origin story of, let's say, like, you know, the Wendy and her brothers and Peter Pan and the Lost Boys and the crocodile, even like you find out how the crocodile came to be. And that was really interesting. No spoilers, but I love that. And it was just such a sweet story. There's a little bit of a love story in it. I won't say it's a romance because, as we know, it's sort of a more tragic in the sense that Tinkerbell is not with this love interest at the end, because we know she goes off and does the Peter Pan movie. And so, but I really, really enjoyed it, Jen. It was, 10 stars, 5 stars, whatever the maximum stars are. And everyone should go and read that book. And it's got pretty sprayed edges.
Yes, very pretty sprayed edges. I feel like I've been getting so many messages the past few days from people who finished and really loved hearing how TikTok Rock came to be, how Captain Hook lost his hand. And there is a James in the book, and he's not who you will expect. So that's been a nice, that's been fun to see how people are reacting to certain points in the book. So, and I'm so thankful for you because I feel like we talk our books through with each other all the time. And it's so nice to have somebody to work with.
That was the only bad thing is I knew some spoilers. Yes. I knew who James was because I helped you plot. And so, but that's okay. It was still a beautiful story. And I think it would be a great family story. They say it's a teen story, but that's just a marketing thing. I think it's perfectly appropriate for younger readers, and it might be fun to watch Peter Pan as a family, the original film, and then go and start reading this book and kind of being like, oh yeah, that's how it happened. Or do it the opposite way, because I know the second it was finished, I was like, I really want to watch Peter Pan now. So.
Yeah, why is Tink the way she is with Wendy? What is Tink and Peter's relationship? How did the Lost Boys get to Neverland? That's all in there. So that's been fun too. Yeah. Well, this has been so much fun making these. Mary, I wish you lived local so you could share these with me.
I need one.
I may have to make so simple to do. Yeah. You're going to have to. This is a good school visit thing. Heather, what do you think?
You're muted.
You're muted, Heather. Oh, unmute.
There you go. Let's go home and play with Rice Krispie treats. This looks awesome. And speaking of recipes and stuff, Mara, do you want to talk a little bit about your Wednesday cookbook that came out?
Yeah, absolutely. I was fortunate enough to get to work with Netflix, MGM, and then we did it through Penguin Random House, and we created the official Wednesday cookbook that is now out in stores. We actually held it a year because the season 2 got held a year, but now the season 2 is out, so perfect time to have a Wednesday watch party. And cook some of these amazing recipes. There's a lot of fun ones like dueling recipes from Wednesday and Enid. So Wednesday's going to have the woeful waffles that are all black, and Enid's going to have the rainbow explosive, waffles with all her color, love of color. So, that was really fun. And so many silly goth dad puns, So it was just wonderful to write, and I partnered with an amazing chef who does a lot of fandom cookbooks, and so he created the actual recipe. When we came up with the ideas, he went into the kitchen and made them into real life recipes, and they're actually extremely tasty. So not only is it fun with pictures from the show and fun little intros and sidebars, but there's actually good things to bake in there too.
Awesome. So we do have a couple
of
questions. So somebody would like to know why dragons?
Well, I've always loved dragons. I just think there's something about dragons, they're big and majestic and scary. And yet there's all these stories from cultures all over the world, about dragons from many, many years ago. And kids always ask me when I do school visits, do you think dragons are real? And I'm like, I don't know, because, why did all these cultures in Asia and Africa and Europe and, everywhere have their own dragon stories if there isn't some grain of something that, some common thing that they all experience. So I don't know. But I think they're a fascinating creature to write for. And I love how it crosses generations. Kids love dragons, teens love dragons. We know adults right now love dragons. And one of the biggest series out there right now is a dragon series for adults, as we all know. So it's fun to have something here's, if you like Fourth Wing, your kid might like Dawn of the Dragons. Here's something you can give to them that's appropriate for them and yet still has that kind of mythical creature that you both love.
Cool.
So true.
Awesome. And all right, another question for you both. Is there a Disney character that you would be afraid to write a book about?
Oh,
Interesting.
That's interesting.
Go ahead, Jen. I answered the last one. You start.
I feel like maybe Mother Gothel, because there are days of the week where Mother Gothel from Tangled is somebody that I'm like, oh my gosh, she is so horrible. I don't even know how I could redeem her. And then there are days as a mom where there's that line in Tangled where she says, you want me to be the bad guy? Fine, I'll be the bad guy. Like, I feel like every parent has had that moment at some point. So I feel like she'd be really difficult. I mean, a really good challenge to write. I love Tangled, but really hard to write. I might be afraid to write about her. Mary, what about you? I can't see you being afraid of anybody.
I'm not afraid of anyone, but I think that it would be a challenge, and one I would greatly accept and be super excited to do, but to write Maleficent, because Maleficent has such a huge fandom, such a huge lore, and different stories, have already explored so much about her. I think it would be a little daunting to take on a new take on Maleficent and make it worthy of her fandom, because she is so awesome. Plus, she turns into a dragon. So, I really should be writing this book. But I don't know. She's so amazing. Yeah, now I'm like, my head's spinning, like, dragon, Maleficent.
I know.
So my head is spinning a little bit now too, because I know, Jen, you have a new book coming out in a couple weeks now, which is very exciting, about tailors. And it's pretty unique in that you are not the only person who has a book about tailors coming out. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's really fun. So I have this book coming out on October 7th called The Tailors. These are 4 girls, all named Taylor, in the same homeroom class, who find out they're all named Taylor after a very specific tailor. And they are all working together to try to get tickets to one of the biggest concerts on the planet. And the cool thing about this is I write about the characters when they meet middle school in the same homeroom class. And then author Elizabeth Eulberg writes about the same characters when they are in high school in Love Stories, it's called. And the book comes out the same day. So I feel like it's really fun. I haven't seen this done before, where you get to grow with the characters and see them at different stages of their life. So if you read this book this year, or you read this and your older sister reads Elizabeth's, it's just a great chance to talk about these characters and swap books, and it's just a lot of fun. It's about the power of friendship and kindness and coming together and overcoming obstacles. It's really cute. Wow. It's really cute.
Well, we're all extremely excited. You guys are crazy busy. Everything coming out, which is awesome and wonderful. But I have to ask, as a final question, what's coming out next, ladies?
Mary?
Go ahead, Jen. You have Isle of Ever too, right? Is that your next?
I do. My next after the Tailors is the second Isle of Ever book. It's coming out March 10th. It is called The Curse Breaker. And if you read book 1 and the cliffhanger got you, just get ready for book 2. A lot will be revealed, but there'll be another shocker of an ending.
Well, I just had 2 books come out, so I have to rest on my laurels for a little bit, having the Wednesday cookbook and Dawn of the Dragons, which literally came out last Tuesday. So it's only been out a week. So I'm going to start going around and touring and talking about this book. So that's very exciting. And then the 3rd book in the series will come out next fall. So I'm also working on writing that. And the other things I have are Disney things, and I can't tell you. But they're awesome, and I'm so excited to tell you. So maybe we'll meet back here another time, and I'll be able to share more.
That sounds
really good. They're really good.
Yeah, Jen knows. Jen knows all.
Well, I can't thank you guys enough. This was super, super fun. And
thank you.
Just so you know, Jen and Mara's books are available on our website. I have signed book plates for anybody who orders books. You can get them at childrensbookworld.net. Super excited, and just want to thank you guys one more time for doing this and being part of this. This was really fun, and I want to bake and cook with both of you again soon.
Yeah,
we will. Thank you, Heather. Thank you to Children's Book World.
Yes. All right, everybody, have a great night.
Bye. Have a great night. Bye.